Hello, welcome to the Good Way podcast. I am your host, Holly, and I'm so glad that you're joining me. Today, we're going to explore some stories, music, poetry, things that are good, true, and beautiful. Hello, and welcome back. Let's begin our time with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Well, I hope you've been enjoying learning Psalm 100. Today I want to draw your attention to something similar to what we talked about last week, but a little bit different. Last week we talked about how many times God's name, or a pronoun like he, his, him, is used in this psalm. I think it was like 18. It was a lot, right? Now let's look at the other pronouns that are used in this psalm. The other ones would refer to us. And I see the word us, we, and we in this psalm. Do you know how many times it shows up? Only 3. There's this one little section in the middle that says, it is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people. So we have us, we, and we. If it's only 3 times in the whole thing, do you think this is quite as important as he, him, and his showing up 18 times? Well, no, it's not. But it's interesting that it's still here. That even though the psalm is all about God, and the whole world exists to give glory to God, he still cares for us. Little, sometimes feeling insignificant, us, but we are still valuable to God. And I love the connection that this psalm has to our hymn. The hymn is, this is my Father's world. Even though this world is so glorious and so beyond our full comprehension, we can still call God our Father. That is special. God is not just far off up in heaven. He is also personal and close to us. Let's think about that as we recite Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name, for the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. We've been learning a lot about the hymn, This Is My Father's World, lately. So today, instead of talking about it, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it 2 times so you can get it stuck in your head for this day. It's a great song to get stuck in your head, isn't it?
Hello everybody. Today we're going to sing This Is My Father's World. We get to remember that God is our Father, but he's in control and he's created everything. So let's sing. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, his hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. Their birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, His hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. Their birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear Him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be one.
I also want to remind you that you can go on Instagram or on the internet to goodwaylearningcollective.com and find a video from Cassie's dance camp. She'll teach you how to learn American Sign Language to this hymn. It's really beautiful to watch and it'd be super cool to learn yourself. Last time we were together, I told you the story of Baucis and Philemon. Do you remember that story? Do you remember why the gods honored them? Well, it was because they showed hospitality. They were generous and kind to strangers, even when they didn't have a whole lot to share. Well, I want you to think about that idea of hospitality as you listen to today's story. This is a tale of a man named Odysseus. Now, he had many adventures, but today I want to tell you one of my favorite stories about him. But first, you need to know a few things about Odysseus. See, he was the king of a Greek island called Ithaca. And long before this story takes place, he married a beautiful and faithful wife whose name was Penelope. They had a little son named Telemachus. Well, when Telemachus was just a little baby, the high king of all Greece, named Agamemnon, called on Odysseus to join the army in the fight against Troy. But Odysseus didn't want to leave his family to go to war. Ultimately, though, he had no choice. He had to fulfill his duty as a king and join the fight. For 10 long years, he fought in the war against the Trojans. He was the mastermind behind the Trojan horse. I wonder if you've ever heard that story. Well, finally the war ended, and Odysseus and his men boarded their ships to sail home. His journey, however, was quite eventful to get back to his house. You see, the gods wanted the credit for the Greek victory in the war, but the men praised themselves for their strength and clever thinking. As a result, the gods cursed their journeys home. Odysseus and his men were blown off course by storms and fierce winds many times. In fact, it took him nearly 10 years to finally get home. You can read all about his journey and what happened when he finally arrived in a poem called The Odyssey. We call it an epic poem because it's very long. Imagine a huge chapter book written in lines of poetry, and that's what The Odyssey is. It was written by Homer. But if you remember when we talked about Aesop, we don't know for sure whether Homer was a real person. But one thing is for sure. This is one of the greatest stories of all time. In ancient Greece, people would gather around a bard or a singer and listen to him recite the poem. So the way you're listening right now is just like children would have heard the story almost 3,000 years ago. Odysseus and his men rode for many days and found themselves in the lands of the Cyclops. They came upon a beautiful island with green hills and tall trees. Odysseus took 12 of his bravest men and rowed ashore, curious about this new land. He brought with him his sword, as well as a skin of strong wine to give as a gift to whomever he might meet. They came upon a large cave, and curious about who might live there, they ventured inside. They found pens filled with sheep and goats, as well as pails full of milk and baskets full of cheese, but the owner of the home was nowhere to be found. Odysseus's men begged him to return to the ships and depart, for they had a bad feeling about this strange cave, but Odysseus was too curious. He wanted to remain behind and learn more about this mysterious shepherd. After all, one should be able to count on one's host to show hospitality. As the sun set, the men felt the ground tremble beneath their feet. A shadow soon loomed across the entrance of the cave. The Cyclops had returned. He was a giant, standing over 20 feet tall, with one single eye in his forehead. He carried the trunks of trees upon his broad shoulders for firewood and drove his flocks of sheep into the cave. With a roar, he rolled an enormous stone across the entrance of the cave, blocking the only way out. He lit a fire, casting the light on Odysseus and his men. "Me, Polyphemus, who are you?" he grunted. Now Odysseus was terrified, but he summoned his bravest voice and answered, "We are Greeks, on our way home from Troy. We have come seeking hospitality from you in the name of Zeus. Will you not give us food and shelter?" "Never," answered Polyphemus. "No talk to me about gods. I don't care for them one bit. We Cyclops better, stronger than gods. We no need gods. We're your ship." Now Odysseus was a clever man, and after this exchange, he knew that the Cyclops had no intent of letting them escape. So he replied, "We have no ships, for Poseidon broke our ships to pieces on the rocks, and we are the only ones who escaped from the wreckage." The Cyclops said nothing. He reached out and snatched up 2 of Odysseus's men, popping them into his disgusting mouth and swallowing them whole. He gulped down a pail full of milk and laid down to sleep among the sheep. The men were terrified. They began to cry out to Zeus for help. Odysseus, however, sat down to think. He had brought his sword, and he had no doubt that he could slay the vile Cyclops. But if he did, there would be no way to escape. They would still be trapped inside the cave by the giant stone rolled across the entrance. The next morning, Polyphemus woke up and took 2 more of Odysseus's men, devouring them whole. He milked his flocks, then rolled back the stone and led the sheep outside. Once they were all out, he replaced the stone, trapping Odysseus and his men once again. All day long, clever Odysseus thought about how he might save himself and his remaining men. He looked about the cave, searching for anything that might be of use. In the corner, he found the trunk of a fresh olive tree. The Cyclops had been drying it out near the fire to use it as a shepherd's staff. Odysseus cut off a piece of the tree and then commanded his men to sharpen it into a point. They hardened it in the fire, turning it into a strong weapon. Then they hid it back among the shadows and waited for the giant to return. At sunset, Polyphemus returned with his flocks, and as before he rolled back the stone, letting the flocks back into the cave. Then he returned the stone to block the entrance once again. Again, the Cyclops made a cruel meal of 2 more men. Odysseus stepped out of the shadows bravely, offering the wineskin to the Cyclops. He said, "Here, drink. This is the only precious thing we were able to save from our ship. Accept this gift and treat us kindly." The Cyclops grabbed the wineskin and demanded, "Tell me your name. I will give you a gift." Then he took a gulp of the wine and smiled with delight. Yummy. Never tasted anything like it. Must be drink of gods." And he continued to drink from the wineskin, not knowing that the strong drink would cause him to grow sleepy and slow. Odysseus spoke up. "I will tell you my name, Cyclops. It is No Man. Now give me my gift as you have promised." The giant replied, "My gift to you is this. I eat you last of all the men." Then he laid back and fell asleep. Odysseus turned to his men and motioned for them to come forward. They dragged the stick out from the shadows and laid it into the fire. When the point was hot and glowing with fire, they raised it high into the air and plunged it into the eye of the Cyclops. You see, the Cyclops only had one eye in the center of his forehead. Well, as you can imagine, Polyphemus screamed out in pain, sending a dreadful sound throughout the whole island. The other Cyclops heard his cries and came running to the entrance of his cave. "What wrong, Polyphemus?" they called through the stone blocking the entrance. "Why you disturbing peace of night? You scaring all our poor little sheep. Is something hurting you or robbing you?" Polyphemus replied, "No man is trying to kill me by his trickery." With this answer, they all returned to their homes. If no man was hurting him, there was nothing they could do. They assumed the giant was having a bad dream or plagued by sickness, so they left him alone. Inside the cave, Odysseus rejoiced that his trick of telling the Cyclops that his name was No Man had worked. The next morning, Polyphemus rolled back the stone guarding the cave, for even though he was blind and angry, he knew his flocks must still go out to pasture. Not allowing any chance for the men to escape, he sat at the entrance of the cave with his hands stretched out, feeling for the men among the sheep. There was no hope of escape. The men remained in the cave while the giant rolled back the stone. Again, Odysseus was left to devise a plan of escape. Again, he looked around the cave for inspiration. Finally, it came to him, but it would have to wait until morning. The men hid themselves in the cave that night, still terrified of the horrible giant. The next morning, the men crept to the pen full of rams. When Polyphemus opened the cave to let out the flocks, the men clung to the underbellies of the rams and held on for dear life. As the flocks pushed their way out of the cave through the hands of the giant, they were hidden among the fleece. Once they were safely out of the cave, Odysseus and his men let go of the sheep and ran for their lives back to the shore. Their friends were relieved to see them, but mourned for their fellow soldiers who had lost their lives. Odysseus would not permit them to cry, for he knew that if the Cyclops could hear them, he would come after them. They put their oars down into the sea and rowed as hard as they could. Once they had reached a safe distance from the shore, Odysseus yelled back, "I am no coward, you evil Cyclops. The gods will repay you for your foul deeds of killing my friends. You have gotten what you deserve, and may you suffer even more." Hearing the voice of his enemy, Polyphemus lifted a boulder from the hillside and flung it out into the ocean toward the ship. It landed just off the bow of the ship, sending a great wave that carried them back toward the shore. But Odysseus grabbed a pole with both hands and shoved the ship back into the depths, urging his men in silence to paddle as fast as they could. For he knew that if he spoke again, the Cyclops would know where they were and would surely destroy them. When they were twice as far as before, Odysseus called out again, Hear me, Polyphemus! If anyone asks who blinded you, tell him that it was the warrior Odysseus, son of Laertes of Ithaca." The Cyclops replied, "Long ago, prophet told me I'd be blinded by a man named Odysseus. I always look for strong, great man, but you, little weakling, have done it with wine and trickery." Then he prayed to Poseidon, the god of the sea. "May Odysseus never reach home. If he does, may he come alone, may all his friends die, and may he find great trouble upon his house." With that, he hurled one final rock, missing the ship by 1 inch. Odysseus and his men escaped. If you want to know what happens next, you'll have to read the poem for yourself. Well, I wonder, do you think Odysseus should have gone to the island? Why or why not? Why do you think I mentioned hospitality at the beginning of this story? How does this tale compare with Baucis and Philemon? I wonder what you think about Polyphemus. What do you think about Odysseus? Well, there's a lot to think about in this story. I hope you enjoyed it. I chose today's poem because of the story of Odysseus. We learned that Odysseus had a hard time reaching home because he was blown off course by the seas and the storms and the winds. Well, this poem is about wind. It's called "Who Has Seen the Wind?" by one of my favorite poets, Christina Rosetti. "Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by." Isn't this a fun poem? I want to teach you a new word today. It's called personification. Can you say that? Personification. Maybe you hear the word person in that word. Well, personification is when you take something that is not a person and you give it qualities to make it sound like a person. And so in this case, we're talking about the trees and the wind as if they're people that are doing things. So you hear in this poem, the leaves hang trembling. Now, is the leaf actually trembling? No, but it kind of looks like what a person trembling might look like, right? And it says the wind is passing through. And it makes it sound like the wind is a person that is passing through. The trees bow down their heads. Does a tree actually have a head? Well, no. But when we hear this phrase, the trees bow down their heads, we can imagine the tree kind of being blown over. And the wind is passing by again, like it's going for a walk through the trees. So this term personification is something that we use in literature and poetry to help us think about things that are not human by giving them the qualities of a person. I want to read it for you one more time. This time, imagine that the leaves and the trees and the winds are taking on those qualities of a person. Who Has Seen the Wind by Christina Rosetti. Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. Well, we've come to the end of the episode. I want to leave you with a blessing. This one comes from Paul's letter to the Philippians. He says, "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." Well, till next time, look for the good way and walk in it.